Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So this whole Adrian Broner situation, it caused Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis to go back and forth when it comes to the whole mental health talks that Ryan Garcia started in the sport of boxing. Now, I don't really have to read what Ryan Garcia said because he's pretty much just summing up what he always says in defense of his mental health issues, that it's real and you need to take this more seriously, et cetera, et cetera. But what Gervonta Tank Davis said in return, it made all the sense in the world. Gervonta said, we just build different. We come from two different places, and I want to show it. You know how I'll fight my mental health by putting the pain on you, end quote. So what Gervonta essentially just told Ryan Garcia is, I got mental health too. We all have mental health, but the question is, how do you deal with it versus how the other person deals with it? And Gervonta says he's going to deal with his mental health by putting pain on Ryan Garcia. In other words, he's saying the mental health he goes through, it inspires him. It motivates him. It pushes him harder. It makes him want to work harder. It's called turning a negative into a positive. Look, I've already explained this to you guys. This is just a fancy word for something that already existed. Everyone has mental health. Everyone has health. Everyone has a brain, 2 arms, and 2 feet. At least most of us, right? Everyone has a life. And at the end of the day, it's all about what are you going to do with the life that was given to you? What are you going to do with those cards that you were dealt? And we see what Ryan Garcia has done with his cards so far in his career and what fighters like Broner, Gervonta Tank Davis, Devin Haney, et cetera, how they have dealt with those cards. You know, the real funny thing about mental health is you could also suffer serious mental health from racism that exists, double standards that exist, doing everything you're supposed to do to better your career and taking on the tough challenges, and they're still not giving you the credit you deserve. Talking about old media. That's something that can also trigger something in your brain and cause serious mental health issues. Devin Haney just became the youngest undisputed champion in the sport of boxing in one of the deepest divisions, the lightweight division. And ESPN, they put him on the bottom of the list, and then the following week, they remove him from the list, but they keep Lomachenko on the list, the guy that lost to Teofimo Lopez. I mean, imagine if this was a boxing Olympic tournament. That's like giving Lomachenko the gold medal instead of giving Devin Haney the gold medal, who won the entire tournament. Gervonta stays knocking out undefeated fighters, fighters with power, fighters at higher weight classes. I mean, Isaac Cruz became somewhat of a star just for surviving Gervonta Tank Davis. And not too many other people really want to fight him. So Gervonta Tank Davis, he beats up and knocks out all of the best Mexican fighters and other Latino fighters. Meanwhile, by way of contrast, you look at Virgil Ortiz's last opponent, you look at Teofimo Lopez's last opponent, and old media, they were damn near praising them for their fights more than Gervonta when Gervonta was fighting way better competition. We haven't seen anyone dominate Gervonta's opponents. And yet old media will try to discredit Gervonta Tank Davis's wins just like they do with every other fighter on the coincidental list. You need very strong mental health to deal with this type of racism. When it came to Ryan Garcia, around the time where old media was making the whole undisputed talk the biggest thing in the sport of boxing, like if you ain't undisputed, you ain't nothing. Of course, this was before black fighters started to really become undisputed, like Jamel Charlo and Devin Haney. But around that time that undisputed talk was really big, I remember Ryan Garcia, before he took his layoff, Ryan Garcia had just got his win over Luke Campbell. And right after the fight, Chris Mannix, he says to Ryan Garcia, you call all of the shots because everyone wants to fight you. You can fight whoever you want. You call all the shots, which is ironic because they said the same thing to Teofimo. But when it came to Teofimo, they said he called all the shots because he was quote unquote undisputed, when of course he was never undisputed. But they said, because you're undisputed, you call all the shots. So even when Ryan had no belts, they treated him as if he had all of the belts, So while old media is praising Ryan Garcia as if he has all the belts, and they're lying to the public and telling people that Teofimo Lopez is undisputed, which is once again completely disrespectful to the WBC champion at the time, Devin Haney, if you really look at the racial double standards, it should be these fighters on a coincidental list that should really be suffering major mental health issues, as opposed to the fighter that old media is doing all they can to protect and praise, like Ryan Garcia or Teofimo or anyone else on the hope list. So mental health is real, just like racism is real. And maybe Ryan Garcia should come out and start saying racism is real too. You keep trying to enforce this on other people that mental health is real, then you might as well just say racism is real too, Ryan. Because we already know if Ryan Garcia was black, all of the capping he's done, all of the calling out all these fighters, I'm going to fight you, going on to the Tyson show, I want you next, and not doing it, and then pulling out and saying, oh, I'm going through depression, because that's what mental health is. It's really just depression. We know what they would be saying about Ryan if he was black. So to all the Mexicans defending Ryan Garcia, saying, man, it's real, it is real, mental health is real, etc., etc., you guys are always the first people in the comment section saying racism doesn't exist. I don't want to hear about racism. It doesn't exist. Now all of a sudden you want to hear about mental health issues, but you treat the topic of racism as if it's your kryptonite. You can't get too close to it. You don't want to hear that at all. Despite the fact that when it comes to racism, there's an abundance of proof that we see on a day-to-day basis. Listen, at the end of the day, I keep telling you guys, mental health is just a fancy term that people are using today. You can call it mental health, you can call it depression, you can call it pissed off, you can call it concern, you can use whatever word you want to use, but at the end of the day, as always, it's how do you deal with the circumstances? How do you deal with your condition? Some people end up with a broken heart, they end up breaking up with their girl or whatever. And some people will stay home and they won't eat for days. Others will say, forget that, I'm going out, we're going to party, we're going to have a good time. It's all about how you deal with the condition that you're in. So I don't understand why Ryan Garcia keeps trying to enforce how people should feel about his mental health issues. I mean, when Ryan Garcia was contradicting himself and using all of the racist people's talking points by saying Devin Haney is boring or I fall asleep when I watch him, etc., etc., I never heard Ryan Garcia say, hey guys, you need to stop these racial double standards. The racism is real. We need to really stop this. We need to realize there's a problem in the sport of boxing. After all, remember, it was Ryan Garcia that said a while ago, out of everyone in the Super 4, Devin Haney would be the most difficult to beat. He was praising Devin Haney. He said Devin Haney would beat Gervonta, he would beat Teofimo, and then he said, oh, and I'll beat them all. But now he tries to make it seem like he doesn't want to fight Devin because he's boring or because he doesn't care about belts anymore, when we already knew that he was saying that he wanted to fight Kambosos for his belts before Kambosos chose Devin Haney as his next opponent. Ryan could have pointed out the racial double standards when Lomachenko fought Teo and didn't throw punches and moved around the ring for 6 rounds straight. Ryan didn't call him boring for that performance, but he calls Devin Haney boring because he knows that's the popular narrative that the racist Mexicans use when they are talking about Devin Haney as a deflection. So this is extremely hypocritical from Ryan Garcia. Look, Ryan Garcia, he took some time off of boxing because of his mental health, right? But when he came back, that meant he was better. That means his mind was more clear and he was more focused. So why did he still end up fighting the weakest opposition? Because you can't use mental health as an excuse anymore when you're back in the ring fighting, right? So if Ryan Garcia and Adrian Broner, they're both claiming mental health issues. But Adrian Broner, when he was Ryan Garcia's age, he was fighting against tough competition, and he's been fighting against tough competition his entire career. If they both have mental health, why hasn't Ryan Garcia ever fought any tough competition before he started negotiating for this Gervonta Tank Davis fight right now? I mean, remember, if Ryan Garcia is ready to get back in the ring and fight, then that means you're not using the mental excuse anymore. You're not using mental health excuses anymore once you have took your time off and you have returned to the ring. Guys, it would be a complete different situation if we seen Ryan Garcia, if we were used to Ryan Garcia getting in the ring and fighting the toughest guys, win, lose, or draw, right? But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the middle of a training camp, he has a breakdown and he pulls out. That type of scenario would support more of some type of mental health issue breakdown. But not when you voluntarily start calling out this man, Gervonta Tank Davis, for over a year, going on to Mike Tyson's podcast, dancing, and I'm going to beat him up. It ain't going over 2 rounds, saying all of these things, then telling people, oh, I'm not going to fight him. I'm going to fight Manny Pacquiao. They're not fighting any of these guys. Ryan Garcia does have mental health issues. And what really caused the mental health issues, the depression, the anxiety, was him lying to the public, lying to his fans, and the backlash he received on his social media accounts. That's what really caused him to be depressed. In fact, I've already told you guys this. Ryan even explained this after he beat Tago. In his post-fight interview, he said, you know what, I'm not going to call out, nobody no more because I don't want to lie to my fans if I know that a certain fight is not going to happen. So from now on, I'm just going to call out certain fighters when I know there's a chance the fight can happen. This is pretty much what Ryan Garcia said. So he's admitting that the backlash from the fans, it really got to him. And that's what made him really suffer all of this anxiety. So yeah, Ryan Garcia definitely has mental issues. I mean, you could tell that by just looking at the way he was acting when he was on the Tyson show, when he was doing that podcast. Because you have to understand, mental health doesn't just mean depression. You can be going through many different moods. You can have many different disorders. You can be bipolar. You can be happy one minute, excited, going crazy, and the next minute you're sad. At the end of the day, I can guarantee you there are some fighters that have been dealing with some serious mental health issues, and that made them want to push even harder in their boxing career. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called LO Key Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to LODekey.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. So to get this hookup, make sure you follow and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.